Howdy, and welcome to the Lost Rider podcast. It's an honor and privilege to address you in the capacity of an interviewer, reporter, and media member. Too many modern media outlets have forgone the integrity and responsibility required of credible information sources. What you will receive here are straightforward discussions with legislators, agency leaders, biologists, engineers, doctors, and countless other experts that have the answers to questions often circulated as kitchen table issues. The title Lost Rider may be thought of literally as well as in the metaphorical sense. While there has been the instance that I was momentarily a little turned around at night in a wilderness area, the idea of being a lost rider in life, well, that fits most folks at some time. These renderings are coming to you in the form of the 25-year-old radio program, The News from the Camp House. It still airs every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. Central Time on KULM 98.3 FM out of Columbus, Texas. The original intent was to relate outdoor topics to the general public. Immediately, it was found that all issues are relatable to the outdoors and that people are people. They all play a role and they all have a vested interest. It's this program's desire to answer common questions about how the world works, how it will operate in the future, and what's the holdup. So please listen, enjoy, and never hesitate to contact us with more questions and feedback. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House, the listening post of the Texas Sportsman Association. This is Herman Brune. This weekend edition is also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club for folks who don't have a country club. All right, tell you what, got a special guest with us this weekend. I'm going to let him, Chris, what's your last name?
Parish, P-A-R-I-S-H.
All right, now Chris comes to us by way of Boise, Idaho, but then, a bunch of other places too. He's been around. He is the executive director, chairman of the...
President and CEO.
Okay.
President and CEO of the Peregrine Fund.
Okay, now we are going to get into a topic that, boy, we're going to light it up this morning. We're going to get everybody aggravated because this is something I have never given the second thought to. I've never dove into this. I've heard about it. It's not something that has really taken hold in our particular area. It's not been that big a concern, but other parts of the country, it's a big deal. And now he's got it, and this is one of those instances when he shows me what he's got, I start realizing that this is a real issue, and it's not foolishness. This is, and we're talking about lead.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about lead bullets, and do they kill birds? And as far as having remnants of lead in a gut pile or in meat or whatever, and having birds out there eating it, and then they fly off and die. And this was a big deal back when everybody was talking about condors and different stuff. And he has got, when you see it, you have to admit there's something here. This is something we always used to call, I can't say what we used to call, but but it's real. It's real. They've got a way of collecting all this now. And anyway, take off.
You bet. Well, thank you first. That's quite an honor. I came to this as a hunter, and obviously I'm a conservation biologist as well. And I work for a group that focuses on raptors. Mm-hmm. Well, I think the first place to start is that raptors, like us, are apex predators. So if their populations are healthy, that usually means the ecosystem's healthy and all the other critters within it. Well, we were studying these condors in northern Arizona, And I became, I'd come to be in charge of that program. And we started seeing lead poisoning. We saw a couple of birds die, and we sent them in for necropsy to the professionals at the pathology lab in over there in Ashland, Oregon. And they said the bird died of lead poisoning. And they sent us an x-ray. And in that x-ray were these little bitty fragments. And I thought, where'd they get that? So we started thinking about it from our own personal experiences, is how many fragments can there possibly be in the animals that we shoot whose remains, like a gut pile or a whole carcass, are left in the field? We looked to the literature, which is what you do in wildlife management, right? First, see if there's any foundational science. And we didn't find any. So my science advisor at the time, Mr. Granger Hunt, another fellow Texan, he said, buddy, we got to go kill some deer. And I said, I'm your man. And so we went out and we shot deer, and we x-rayed them whole, and we x-rayed the gut piles, and we x-rayed all the way down to the packaged meat. Well, I knew, like most of your listeners probably know, about weight retention. You know, when you pull that slug out of the offside hide of an animal that you shoot, right, and you see that mushroom bullet, and you say, man, well, there you go. The animal's dead, and there's my bullet. It did its job. But what I never recognized was the fragmentation. Where did what you lost, if it retained 70% or even 90% of its mass, where did that 30 to 40 to 10%, where did that end up? And when we x-rayed gut piles from mule deer or white-tailed deer that we had shot in this study in Wyoming, it blew our minds. Some of those gut piles had as many as 400 little bitty fragments. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Those fragments looked just like the ones that were in the stomachs of those birds that had died. Okay. And so we thought, man, we've got to publish this. And furthermore, I couldn't wait to share it with our fellow hunters. And we developed in Arizona with Arizona Game and Fish Department a voluntary outreach and education campaign that shared the information with our fellow hunters and asked them to consider to take actions to reduce that eventual lead being in the field. Two ways to do that. One, you could shoot lead-free ammunition, which had come on the market in the 80s. You know, Barnes bullets had one first, and then the Hornady came on, and Nosler came on, and now every major manufacturer produces a monolithic. Mm-hmm. But they produce them not because they're safer with respect to lead. They produce them because some game, like dangerous game in Africa, you don't want a bullet that fragments. You want it to retain its mass. Right. And so we talked to the manufacturers. We ended up buying 2 boxes of ammunition for every hunter that drew a tag on the Kaibab Plateau. Now, if you know about the Kaibab, you know you're going to draw there once every 15 years or so, right? Mm-hmm. So we've got a revolving door of new hunters coming in, so it meant we had to keep that up. So our partners at Arizona Game and Fish have maintained this, and we have reached 87% voluntary participation for over a decade. Now, that's a great story, and it demonstrates the conservation ethic that we as hunters and anglers have. But at the same time, that publication we produced was being used to threaten people with litigation in California, and it resulted in a lead ban in California. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of, we were the baby with the bathwater. We got thrown into that lot and said we were called anti-hunters. And I was like, wait a second. You know, my background and me being what I often refer to myself as an educated redneck hunter, we're not anti-hunters at all. We did, and our actions should speak louder than anything else. But you know how this world is. It runs on emotion mm-hmm. and perspective. And so we launched the North American Non-Lead Partnership in 2018, and it's a group. It's truly a partnership, mostly of small sports groups, hunting groups, wildlife management agencies, to share this information in a way that people can inform their decision-making process. And what we have found is when we share the information in that way, most hunters say, yeah, I don't want to take the risk, even if it's a low risk of poisoning anything. All I want to kill is that animal's in my sights. Mm-hmm. You know, one shot, one kill. And so this is the mantra basically that we use today, and it's preserving our wildlife conservation and hunting heritage. And we're doing it through sharing information of a simple little study that we started back in the 2000s.
All right, now let me reiterate that. I'm going to say it again for you because, you know, listeners, and I know everybody, you know, so many people have got preconceived, they've already got their mind made up. And this is really necessary. I mean, because you guys, what you just said, you did not set out to ban lead hunting. You set out to just find out what really happens here and then put the information out there and let people make up their own minds of whether what they're going to do about it, if they're going to use lead ammunition or not. And that's all y'all did. You just wanted to see how this worked. And you figured out a way, and you've got all these little, of course, we're on the radio, but you've got all these little examples where you have managed to capture all these fragments from these various bullet types.
Yeah.
And it becomes, and of course, the smaller the fragments are, the easier they are for birds to digest. And I should point out, the easier it is for people to digest. But the problem is that this is all you were doing. You're putting out information so people can look at it, make up their own mind, and kind of see what the deal is. And then the left took your stuff and run with it.
Boy, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. And, this is the way the world is today. It's not about logic. It's about who makes the best case. We were talking last night, late into the night, about, influencers in communities. And, there's really no checks and balances for people stating opinions as facts. Mm-hmm. And me being in wildlife conservation field, we start with foundational science. But science alone is not conservation. Knowledge alone doesn't mean much unless you use it and apply it. And I think that's the key with our project. And this is not unique to just condors. It's not unique to North America. Mm-hmm. Our style of conservation that we do globally, we work in Madagascar, Africa, India, the Arctic. We work with communities to understand their values and then share with them our knowledge. And then what you do with that combined knowledge is create a better place and a better future for our grandkids. That's my passion.
Right. All right, I tell you what, let's take a quick break and thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning, and we'll be right back. Thank goodness for all the great sponsors we have here at News from the Camp House. H-E-B Food Stores, that's Stephen Tice at H-E-B. He helps me, he helps the community, he's a great man. I'm so thankful H-E-B loosened him up, lets him go around and sponsor a few things. H-E-B's got all your food needs. It's the greatest food store we got here in Columbus. Thank goodness for H-E-B. First State Bank, you go over to the First State Bank, they'll take care of all your loans, all your deposits, your savings, anything you need. Bunch of great hometown people over there. You got Celia Tobias, John Pollock, everybody over there is looking out for you. Miss Barbara Barta. It's a great bunch of folks at the First State Bank is also sponsoring News from the Camp House. First State Bank takes care of all my business. Baumgart Agency, Susan Baumgart at the Baumgart Agencies, her and Germania. She told me to plug Germania. Germania is an insurance that she likes everybody to know about. The Baumgart Agencies. Miss Susan and I are classmates, being classmates. She got me out of high school, sat right beside her, put us in alphabetical order where I could copy. And Susan Baumgart over at the Baumgart Agency taking care of all your insurance needs. Lyco Realty, one of the original sponsors of News from the Camp House. Lyco Realty, the oldest real estate company in the county, and for the last 3 years voted the favorite realtor in the county. Lyco Realty, that's Miss Kimberly Johnson, that's Crockett's granddaughter. More kinfolks and classmates and great people from Colorado County. People from Colorado County helping people from Colorado County. That's great. Oh, thank goodness for all these wonderful people come to me want to be sponsors for News from the Camp House. Good morning and welcome to the second half of this week's News from the Camp House. Sitting here this morning with Chris Parish. He is the head dog over at the Peregrine Foundation.
Fund, and it's not a money marketplace. It's not an investment firm. It is of sorts because we invest in conservation, but the returns you get back are better than money.
Okay. Well, I get you. And we're talking about lead, and it's really fascinating because, I had preconceived ideas and I was pretty much not concerned about lead at all. And I get to looking at these examples that he's got where they have captured these, they made up something, they figured out how to shoot in a barrel of water and get all the lead fragments out of there. And and then, okay, you was telling me about the x-rays and another particular part of x-rays and how many fragments actually come off of these things. My listeners have heard me scream about ballistic tip bullets.
Yeah.
And if you don't get an exit wound, where is that bullet?
Yeah.
And that just, if anything, it highlights what I've been yelling about all along is you have to have an exit wound, and you don't want that bullet to just go inside, blow up, take the lungs out, and have them drop dead right there. That's what so many guys like to see. But yeah, where's all that stuff now?
Yeah, and that's a rare case. I hearken it back to you got to know your tools.
Yeah.
You can build a house with a ball peen hammer, but you know what you can't do? Pull a nail.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't mess up. Having the knowledge about our bullets and how they're constructed and what velocities they perform at is so important. It doesn't matter if it's a lead or a non-lead bullet. So we encourage everybody to learn more about the terminal ballistics to make sure it has the velocity necessary to open as it is intended to. Mm-hmm. And on average, most bullets are intended to expand and mushroom to two times their original diameter. Right? But when you collect that bullet and you put it on a grain scale, like we do after our testing in the water. Now, good, water is not like a deer, for sure. You don't have bone, you don't have hide. It's just water. So we're comparing bullets to bullets in the same medium, but we're getting the same weight retention as the manufacturers suggest you will in a hunting situation. Okay. And so if that bullet expands and loses mass, it loses its ability to penetrate through that body cavity. And that's why you'll see if you shoot a high shoulder or something like that, that bullet may only get in and puncture one lung. And I'm like you, I want it to go clean through. I want to have two opportunities for it to bleed out of so I can track it, depending on how far it goes. And a lot of people don't know that. And there aren't a lot of studies. There is a study in Europe where they looked at escape distances from the place that they were shot and how many meters that they traveled, because they use meters over there, right. how many meters they traveled. And it's dependent upon body size, which makes sense. How much blood that animal has in its body and the ability to carry oxygen throughout it depicts how long they can run before they drop dead. Okay. So if you hit the central nervous system, that's that rare instance like you described where they drop in their tracks. Mm-hmm. But that's not the norm. The norm is you punch a hole through two lungs, maybe you bust down a shoulder, maybe you don't, and then they run off to varying distances. There was no statistical difference between lead-free and lead in escape distances and how far those animals traveled. And so that began me thinking, so it's not a bad thing to punch clean through if you know your target and beyond, and you're safe, and you know exactly where that bullet's going to go, and you field tested it, you know it on paper, and you're confident in your tools. Mm-hmm. But that confidence comes with more knowledge. But yeah, I had a buddy I told you about last night. He shot an old 300 Savage, and I saw him shoot a cow elk at about 170 yards. He shot it 3 times, and it wouldn't go down. And I just thought, man, this was when I was younger and didn't have much experience. I said, these elk are hard to kill. We went and cleaned that animal, and I saw all that gelatin. I mean, it was just ruined, that whole near side shoulder, but it didn't penetrate the cavity. So the beauty is, with some of these monolithics, or even the newer bonded bullets, they retain a lot of mass and they punch clean through, even hard to kill critters like hogs and bears.
You're okay. All right.
I diverged a little bit.
Well, no, it's all good. It's all good. I'm a big bore guy. I don't like to have to track things too far. And what you just related to, again, I'm going to go back and reiterate for my listeners, was that the European study showed how, they were measuring if you shot it here, where it died, and they were seeing how far it went. And it was, okay, and what I just heard was that part of that had to do with the size of the caliber. That, okay, I'm big. I'm not a 6.5 girl gun kind of guy.
Well, I've killed quite a lot of critters with a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah, I'm 30 caliber and up. I've got a 4590 that I swear will kill a Buick, but it's anyway.
Well, time will kill a Buick. Well, wait, I can't say that, can I?
Well, anyway, all right. So this is, and what we're one of the things. Tell me again. You told me last night again. We keep talking about because we've already talked about all this stuff in depth, and it's really interesting about the new type of X-rays that they're using.
Yeah, there's a process called synchrotron radiation. So when we started our study, we bought an min X-ray, just like the one that the vet will bring out to your house to X-ray your horse's hoof, right, or foot. So that's what we used, and we counted fragments in our study based on that. There's a new technology called synchrotron radiation, and it's fine scale X-ray. It's almost like a CAT scan, like a CT scan for X-ray. Mm-hmm. It is able to differentiate between densities of those opacities that you see, the specks on the X-ray you see. It can differentiate between those that are bone, those that are lead, and those that are copper, all the way down to the micromillimeters. And we counted in our bullet or ballistics gel, we counted like 150, 200, sometimes 400 fragments when you catch it all, worst case scenario with a bullet that does not retain a lot of mass. Mm-hmm. Then they put that same type of gel block into that synchrotron, and they found out that a spot that's about 1/4 inch by 3/4 of an inch, just one section of that wound path in the gel, had 12,000 identifiable lead fragments, stuff that you can't see with the naked eye. Mm-hmm. And so that's like a powder, right? And you mentioned earlier, the smaller that surface area in an acidic gut of any vertebrate critter, whether it's a bird of prey or whatever, it has the ability to break down and then be assimilated and absorbed into that animal's body. You get enough of it and there'll be a problem. Mm-hmm. And I want to be very clear for your listeners. We're not saying that if you use a lead bullet, you're going to kill scavengers. The potential is there. And we're very careful to say that, because this area of study is relatively new. And what we have found in talking with our fellow hunters is most of them don't know about it, haven't thought about it, and don't have the information. And that's our primary objective, is to share that. Right.
You guys are not anti-hunters, but y'all have done so much good work. The anti-hunters are taking it and using it.
Yeah, it's nothing that burns my behind more than that. Yeah. Because, like I said, we're trying to understand the system. And when we present this to hunters, the average response after the arms come to be rested and not crossed, and the faces aren't red when we go to speak, and then when we're done, they say, "Well, I had no idea. This makes sense. I want to help." And that's why I'm so inspired and jacked up about this, is that hunters are blown away by this, and this is good information.
Absolutely. And of course, what I gathered out of it right away was to tell people to quit using those ballistic tip match grade bullets for hunting. That if you shoot something and you don't get an exit wound, you're using the wrong kind of bullet. And if you're doing that and you're saying, well, it's dead right there, I don't have to go look for it, well, then that's you just figure what we just have enlightened you with is that all those fragments, it's like eating gunpowder. I mean, it's all that stuff's in there, and that's what you're getting. So that's bad. I've been against those things ever since I was a hunting guide, and I had to go looking for critters because they didn't die because someone. One of the things you said earlier was about knowing specifically where that bullet is going, and I thought the more people talk about they know specifically where that bullet is going. The more people talk about that, the more I'm going, this guy can't shoot. He's bragging too much.
Yeah, you bet. And I think too, one thing we didn't cover, because there's so much to cover. Think about this. If you got a bullet that retains 99 to 100% of its original mass, mm-hmm. and you're used to shooting maybe even a different caliber of a higher grain weight, I'm going to compare the 30-06 168 grain bullet that retains 64% of its mass. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to shoot a 140 solid monolithic. That 140, 6.5 Creedmoor, sissy gun you called it.
Yeah, girl gun.
Yeah. We got to be careful. Anyway, that 140 grain solid will actually retain as much, if not more, mass than that 165.
All right, when you say monolithic, what is it?
Just solid copper or any of the solids. There's been some different ones that have, remember the old fail-safe bullet Winchester had? It was a lead core in the butt end. Right. So it's kind of like a partition style bullet, but the lead core was in the back end and it was covered in steel and then jacketed and then solid copper on the front end.
Yeah, that was another joke that we talked about, the nozzler partitions. I had a gentleman on here 20 years ago, and we were talking about this, and he did not like it. He said, man, everybody in the world's hunting with these nozzler partitions. He said, but what's the name? The name is partition. They're made to come apart.
They do.
And he didn't like them 25 years ago. He didn't like them. Killed the hell out of stuff, but he didn't like them in because they didn't retain enough weight, and they came to pieces. He wanted a bullet that stayed together, mushroomed, and gave him an exit wound. And, yeah, he didn't like them back then, and now, we're looking at, okay, we want everything to stay together. Well, that's one that's not going to stay together.
Yeah, the thing is they shoot well. I mean, that bullet's been on the market since the 40s, and I use it in my demos all the time because people are so familiar with it. Yeah. But you're right. You talk to people that hunt dangerous game in Africa.
They don't use that.
No, they're going to use a bullet those brass solids, those big bore, Rigby or Riggs. I'm not familiar enough with them, but, the 416 and all those big ones, they want something that doesn't lose mass because they want it to penetrate and dump all that energy when it goes through bone and hide and everything else. Because the last thing you want to do is piss off a Cape buffalo.
Yeah, that turns into something you don't like. All right, I'll tell you what, Chris, thanks for being with us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, I hope we got everybody jacked up and mad. They can come talk to me, and I'll tell them what I saw. So, folks, hope you enjoyed this weekend's edition. News from the Camp House is also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club folks who don't have a country club. Now, y'all go out, you have a big old weekend, have lots of fun, be safe, and y'all just remember, pretty much any day is sure a good day to be out in the woods.